So how's it going? My name is Jason Brazeal, and I was asked to make a video about this because I'd written several articles about the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot film and how it's, fake, and how we can see within the film itself that it is actually a hoax. And this is the piece of film footage that is one of the most highly scrutinized pieces of film footage in history. I think the Zapruder film of the Kennedy assassination beats it out, but it is the second most scrutinized pieces of film in history. And what we're looking at now is the original footage of the alleged roll of film, although the original roll came up missing, of course. And essentially, there was an arrest warrant issued for the camera that was used in the film because he had rented the camera from Shepard's Camera Shop in Yakima, Washington, and didn't bother to return the camera. And this is kind of the character of the person. He was kind of a huckster, kind of a get rich quick, kind of a slimy used car salesman type of person. Never paid his debts back, things like that. He was obsessed with trying to film a Bigfoot and everything. He had plagiarized a sketch from Morton Kunstler, which we can see right here, and he published that in his book the year before. And the interesting thing about this is the sketch that he plagiarized is the exact same thing that he filmed. It was an alleged female Bigfoot encounter, and as you can see, it basically served as a storyboard for his film footage. There's, a hunter that, a female Bigfoot walks in front of him, turns and looks. The actual accounts of the alleged sighting, which is unverified, by the way, basically mirrors the film that he created a year later. And what had happened is he had gotten in with a company called A&E Films, and they produce nature films like Cougar Country and things like that. And they had essentially seen it as a way to bolster the attendance at the screenings of their films as a kind of an in-between act sandwiched between Cougar Country and other features such as that. So they had went to Desilu Studios and spoken to John Chambers, who did Planet of the Apes, Lost in Space, Star Trek, all of those, and essentially spoke to him about it because Patterson had seen a Patterson had seen a episode of Star Trek which had aired in January of '67, and it was called the Galileo 7. And in that episode, there are Neanderthal creatures, which are featured in it, and he had seen that, so he went to talk to Desilu Studios, went to talk to John Chambers about it, and basically Chambers was known for renting out suits, and he would part out the suits in order to keep the production costs and the turnaround times short, and the cost of it very low. So basically, he took the mask from the Galileo 7 episode, glued some more hair onto it, and then when he did that, he essentially used that mask. They put it over a football helmet, stretched it over a football helmet, which you can see right here, actually in the film. You can see how the mask is stretched over a football helmet. And what they did was they unscrewed the face guard from the football helmet, the face guard, and then they had stretched the mask over it. And we'll get into the shoulder pads and everything here in just a moment. Now, Bill Munns and I have spoken. I've spoken to Jeffrey Meldrum, who is the primatologist from Idaho State University, who is in all the Bigfoot documentaries and everything all the time. And he's the one that says, "Oh, well, there's a mid-tarsal break," and all these things are indicative of a primate type of animal. And he's completely wrong, again, just as he was at the Skookum cast, where he tried to postulate that that the resting place for an elk was a freaking Bigfoot trying to stretch and reach for apples laying on the ground. So, I mean, this is absolutely preposterous. But the reason I wrote the article is because I worked in the film industry, and I have an extensive knowledge of practical makeup effects, and I'm tired of the documentaries and everything trying to act like they know something about practical makeup effects when they actually do not. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, and we're going to go into that, and we're going to break it all down, and I'm going to show you how in the film itself you can actually see that it is fake. And if it's in the film, you can't really dispute it because it's located within the footage. So all of these he said, she said, things in the backstory that I've mentioned are basically circumstantial evidence at best. But if we look at what is contained within the film itself, then we can't really dispute that because the film can't lie. So the film is going to show you exactly what it is. But if you actually know what to look for and know what you're talking about, then you can spot it very easily. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to show you how someone who actually knows about practical makeup effects can expose all this. Now my credentials are I am an executive producer for the film The Legend Lives, the true story of the Jersey Devil. I have worked for Famous Monsters of Filmland, which is the original horror magazine that started in 1958 that George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Tom Savini, Wes Craven, all of those people read that magazine and were weaned on that magazine. So it's a bit of an institution. And we covered a lot of practical makeup effects and stuff with it. I worked for Deep Red magazine with Chaz Ballin, where we basically featured exploitation type films like Cannibal Holocaust and Make Them Die Slowly, and all of those notorious type of films that a lot of people get put off by or whatever. The extreme horror and gore of the Italian giallo films and all that. So that's what we covered in that.
You get all your stuff out of storage?
And I actually, and I've owned Space Monsters magazine. I've worked in the motion picture industry for about 14 years, and I've worked on film productions, award-winning film productions. I've done a great many things. I've basically achieved more than most people will be able to dare dream about, and there's basically no one around me that can even match my level of expertise or the things that I've actually accomplished. I mean, I'm like kind of up there. So, but enough bragging about myself. That kind of comes with the territory. I kind of did a lot of those things so that I would have bragging rights to it, and having the bragging rights is part of the spoils of victory. So let's go into it and let's dive in and break this down. This is the film stabilized, but at regular speed. So we see him turn and, walk through. And it's just riddled with the problems in it. So we see him going backwards there. This is all at regular speed. And I'm going to break it down and we're going to zoom into it. And we're going to slow it down so that we can look at every frame, each frame at a time. Now, Bill Munns numbered these frames. Bill Munns was a special effects artist who did Beastmaster. He did the Swamp Thing movie with Adrienne Barbeau from like 1980 or whatever, which had appalling special effects. He worked with Dan, meaning Dan O'Bannon, who did Return of the Living Dead. And he basically got fired from Return of the Living Dead for doing shitty work, basically. He's a cool guy, and I'm not trying to rag on him or anything, but he's the only special effects artist that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to Rick Baker and everybody else, and he's the only one that I've ever spoken to who actually believes that it's real. And the reason he believes it's real is because he's not spotting fundamental FX techniques. And if he can't spot these fundamental FX techniques, then I have to call you into question, because you're either lying about it, deliberately lying to try to get notoriety for it, or you are actually fooled by the illusion. And if you're fooled by the illusion and you're claiming to be a special effects expert, then you're not the expert that you're claiming to be. And I mean, because there's no way that someone who with that level of experience would actually believe that this is real unless they're lying about it. or they're not who they say they are. And that's just basically what we're going to break down. So this has like stirred up a lot of controversy. I've been called a lot of names and stuff like that by these Bigfoot believers because, you know, some of these people just cannot believe that this thing is fake, or that someone like me would come in and just break this thing down within like 15 minutes and just completely destroy the entire thing. But I mean, the so-called experts who have viewed this footage for all these 50 years or whatever don't know what they're either don't know what they're talking about, or they're making shit up, and they're trying to basically get invited to go to conventions and get their lodging and their food paid for and all those things, and get paid to speak at these conventions for these believers and stuff, and write these books because it's like a money machine. Either that, or they're actually fooled by it, and if they're actually fooled by it, it's just simply because they don't know what they're actually looking at. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you what you're actually looking at and how you're wrong about it. And again, the article that I wrote about it got like 11,000 views within like a couple of hours, and like it like went caused a firestorm within their community. And so now let's break it down, and we're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I said in the film that in frame F305 and 325, you can actually see the fake footwear. So right here, we're looking at frame F305, and I have it here. This is once again that Bill Munns had numbered. And essentially, if you look at right here, you can see his ankle, and we can see the shoe wear very clearly right here. You can see the heel, you can see how it's manufactured, you can see the sole right here, you can see how it comes around, and you can tell that this is manufactured footwear. This manufactured footwear is in keeping with the type of footwear that would be used during that time frame for suit deployments. So that is an exact match for suit deployments of that time frame, and we'll be able to see this actually within the footage itself when we roll the film. So this will be very obvious. Frame F325, if we look at frame F325, then what you can see is you can see its heel. If you look at his heel here, no living animal has a heel like this. This is actually in keeping with suit deployments of that period of time. If you look at the bottom of the foot, and you can see how this circle goes around, you can actually tell that this is manufactured footwear from that time frame. And the shape of this and the shape of his ankle and everything is exactly like the type that would be used in suit deployments of that period of time, the late 1960s. If we look over here, I've overlaid some shoulder pads from that era over the back so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And we'll be able to see the shoulder pads from the front, and we'll be able to see them from the back, and we'll be able to see them throughout the sequence, and I'll show you all of that. Again, I have the shoulder pads. I have them zoomed out here, and now we have it without the shoulder pads, but you can still see the shoulder pads. So we see them right here. You can see just right down through this line. And you can see how it creates this recessed area just above his shoulder. And in the film, you'll actually be able to see this because you'll be able to see how the actual arm moves differently from the shoulder pad. It'll be in keeping with how football players look. And you can tell how it comes down under here. We have a notch, and then you can actually see how the shoulder pad goes up underneath the arm, and you can actually see it right here, how it goes this way. And now we can see now in the back and the posterior, they put a posterior piece to try to make the body look a little bit longer, and what they were probably trying to do is hide the components which allowed the person to be placed within the suit. So they put this fake posterior piece, and you can actually tell that this is Dynel fabric. You can tell how it's shaped right here, and it comes around in a semicircle fashion, just like this. And you can see it very clearly right here. And as you can tell, the legs and feet go up underneath that, just as if someone was wearing a coat. When someone's wearing a coat over their posterior and it's coming down over it, the legs will go up underneath that, and it does not look organic, obviously. And you'll notice this when we roll the footage. You'll be able to see this. And right here again, you can see the foot. You can see how that's fake footwear. It's it's exactly like the type that was used in suit deployments of that era. You can look at the ankle right here. You can tell how that's fabric that comes down over the ankle. And in the suit deployment, right here you can see his elbow, and you can actually see how the arm extension, because what they did was they had an arm extension that went in there to try to make his arms look a little bit longer for the purposes of the illusion. And you'll be able to tell, and one of the most glaring things about it is the arms never bend throughout the sequence. The fingers never move, the hands never move, and the the arm never bends at the elbow. And the reason for that is because they had created arm extension, but they did it wrong, and they didn't place it in the correct place in order for him to be able to bend his elbows. So he just kind of basically swings his arms about as he goes. You can tell right here how the suit, the headpiece, was actually separated from the suit, and when they stretched the mask over the football helmet to try to bulk it up, they were trying to bulk it up to make the subject look a little bit more, bulky and animal-like. He had taken some horse clippers and shaved down key portions of the dynel fabric, and you can actually see that right here. You can see how he shaved down certain parts of it, and the reason he did that is because as a cowboy, he knew that like animals like bobcats and cougars and mountain lions and things like that, they have like scars, and they're dirty, and they have problems with their fur, like damage to the fur and everything, and they look a little bit mangy. And he was trying to make it look like a mangy type of animal who was just walking around in the forest and been walking around in the forest for all these years or whatever. So he shaved it down in parts to try to make it appear as if it was that mangy type of animal. Right here, I'm talking about the brequatorial line, and this is kind of jesting. I'm making fun of breast and equatorial. And what I'm talking about is how the anatomy, according to the anatomy of the person in the suit, if we look right here, according to the anatomy, the fake breast piece is actually 4 inches too low. So the fake breast piece is far too low for it to be a living organic animal. And if you actually look right here, you can actually see how the fake breast piece was created. You can actually look right down here, and you can see how it's constructed of dynel and how it is sitting atop the other dynel. You can follow it just right along here, and you'll be able to see it again in the other image where I haven't marked it up. You can actually see it pretty good right here. You can see how it comes over right here, and you can see how it comes right down through here. And this is the fake breast prop that they used. And what this was he was trying to fake the female aspect of it. So they created this fake breast prop, and placed it over the dynel. Now it looks like they actually turned it upside down, because if you look at the way that it should be, this part should actually be in the stomach, and the breast should be up here. Now, they either accidentally put it on upside down, or what my suspicion is that the shoulder pad support, which came down, actually inhibited that, which you can actually see the shoulder pad support right here. And this is in the famous frame of it turning and looking that everybody shows and sees all the time. But if you, and right here in plain view on the famous frame, you can see the shoulder pad support come right down right through here. That's what this formation is. And then it comes right up through here, and then you can actually see it on the arm. You can actually see how the shoulder pads are sitting underneath the dynel, and it comes back over his shoulder right here, and you can actually see the arm extension right here, and you can see how the musculature changes right through this area, because his arm is right here, his hand is right down in this area, but there's this extension right here. The extension begins up here, his hand is here, and this is the fake hand. And the fake hand never moves, the fingers never move, and like I said, the arms never bend. Now here's the posterior piece as well. We can actually see this in the famous frame as well. This area is part of the shaved down area where he shaved it down. This right here is the posterior piece, and then we see this come down, and then we see it go over. Okay, so we can see all of this within the famous shot of it turning that everybody puts on postcards and t-shirts and everything everywhere, and it is glaringly obvious right there in plain view this whole entire time for all of these 60 years or however long it's been that these people have looked at this film and claimed to be experts and scrutinized it. Now here I have an image of Joe Namath, and Joe Namath is from that period of time, and he is wearing shoulder pads right under his jersey, which were the type that were used during that period of time. And if we look over here at the subject again, we can see that the formations match up. It's going to be the same type of formation underneath the dynel as it is under the jersey. Now the jersey is a thinner material, so it's going to have a slightly different appearance, but you can tell that all the key components are in the same place. And the dynel actually, it looks exactly like Joe Namath wearing his shoulder pads. It's the same type of formation that you're going to see with someone in a suit deployment wearing under dynel that has shoulder pads on. Now, right here we see this is the fake breast prop again. This is the unmarked version, and you can actually see it go down through here and come up right here, and you can see how it sits atop the dynel. It's very blatantly obvious. And then this is the shoulder pad support. This again is the shoulder pads, and we'll be able to see this in the film footage. You'll see how his arm actually moves differently under the shoulder pad, because the shoulder pad creates that recessed area where the arm sits underneath it, and essentially it's going to swing a little bit differently. We'll be able to see that in the footage. So we're going to go back and we're going to roll the footage here in just a second, and I have it slowed down and zoomed in so we can take a look at it. And I'm going to break it all down, and I'm going to show you everything that's wrong with this ridiculous hoax that these so-called experts and scientists, who probably need to have their credentials pulled, claim that this is a real living animal because they've been fooled by this illusion, and they act like they know what they're talking about. They don't have the faintest idea about practical makeup effects. And another thing that I want to point out before we go into this is that a lot of these believers will say that, well, back in 1967, the blockbuster film at the time was Planet of the Apes, and if they couldn't do that in Planet of the Apes, then that proves that this has to be real. But Planet of the Apes was a completely different type of illusion, and it was done for a completely different purpose. What they did in Planet of the Apes was John Chambers had glued the prosthetics directly to the faces of the actors involved, and the reason he did that was because they were satirical creatures, and for the purposes of the film production, they needed them to be able to display emotions and everything and utilize their exaggerated facial expressions in order to give more life into the characters and everything. Now, something like this is a completely different type of illusion, and you're not going to use those same types of techniques or methods for something like this. So to compare the two is someone who is completely ignorant of the artistry and techniques that go into practical makeup effects, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Just like in any industry, just like a magician creating an illusion or any industry that you work in, you're not going to use the same methods and techniques for every type of job that you encounter. You're going to use different ones, and it's the same thing with practical makeup effects. You're not going to use the same type of techniques in this footage that you would use in a film such as Planet of the Apes. So to compare the two is complete nonsense, and we're just going to get that out of the way right away. So let's look at the film slowed down, and right off the bat we can see the shoe. So as I have it stopped right here, you can see the shoe. You can actually see the heel right here. You can see the sole of the shoe. You can see how it's manufactured footwear. And here's the posterior piece. We can actually see the posterior piece coming down right over here in a semicircle fashion, which no living organism would actually have, because it looks like fabric, it's cut like fabric, it reacts like fabric, and as you see, as we roll the film, it looks and acts exactly like fabric. Here again, we can see how the leg comes up underneath it. We can see the posterior piece very clearly right here. It's still in the semicircle fashion. The leg is coming up underneath there. The hands have not moved. The arm has not bent. We can see right here where the shoulder, where the actual arm extension is. You can see the shoulder pad right here. If you look right here, you can see the shoulder pad. You can see the notch right here. You can see how they end right here and they come across, and right here at the nape of the neck you're going to notice that it's not organic. There's definitely something manufactured underneath there. Now if you look here, you can actually see the other shoe. You can actually see, you can tell that this is actually in keeping with what it looks like for footwear of that type to be used during this time frame. And this is exactly like footwear used in suit deployments of that time frame looks. Again, the hand has not changed. It's still in the same position. The arm has not bent. The shoulder pad is right here. You can actually see the shoulder pad right here. You can see the notch coming back. You can see how it comes up over here, and this is his back, and this is the fake posterior piece right here. And over here, you can actually tell that this is not, they always try to say that there's, oh, well, there's musculature in the legs, and he's got a herniated disc and all these things. But that's actually not true. You can actually see that it is fabric, and you can see how it comes down right here, and you can tell that this is Dynel fabric, okay? We're going to stop it right here. You can actually see the posterior piece coming down in the semicircle fashion right here. You can actually tell that this is fabric. You can tell his arm has not changed. The elbow has not bent. The hands are exactly the same. The posterior piece is right here. You can see the shoulder pad right here. You can tell how it's recessed right here, and you can tell how the arm is coming down underneath that, how it creates that pocketed area. Now if we look right here, you can actually see the shoulder pad again. You can see it again from the back. You can see it actually pretty clearly right here, and you can see how it comes down over here. If you look down here at the posterior piece, the posterior piece is still there. The arm has not changed. This right here is definitely manufactured footwear. You can tell that it is exactly like the type used in suit deployments of that period of time. Again, there's the fake foot. We can definitely tell. The posterior piece is right here. Okay. You can tell how the leg comes up right underneath there, just like I was talking about. Again, you can see it. You can see the shoulder pad right here. Now he's starting his turn, so when he starts his turn, we're going to actually see it even a little bit better. And the deal with it is if you can see it in multiple frames, like this is throughout the entire sequence, but if you can see it within multiple frames, then it is not an anomaly within the film itself. Now, Bill Munns tried to say that, that motion blur caused the foot of a living animal to be transformed into the foot of someone wearing a suit at that specific period in history. And that is I just don't even know what to say about that. That's just preposterous to even make any type of correlation of an argument with that. It's just nonsense. And this is what a lot of these so-called fringe believers and stuff actually believe in. I'm sorry to break it down to you people, but this is not a living animal. This is a person in a suit. We're going to stop it right here. You can actually see that the posterior piece is still in the semicircle fashion. Now he's turning, and you can actually see this gap right here. You can see how it's sitting right here, and how the legs come up underneath there, and how it creates that recessed area. Right here is the shoulder pad. You can actually see it right here, and you can see how it comes back over here, and it ends right here, and then its back comes down. Again, the arm extension is right here. The hand and the arm has not moved, has not changed. He's not bent his elbow or anything. So this is definitely in keeping with the suit deployment of that period of time. By an amateur, no less. Now, if you watch how his arm swings here, if you watch right above his arm, that is the shoulder pad. So the shoulder pad is right here. and you can see it from the back. So as you look at the nape of his neck right here, you can see it come down, and you can see it stops about right here, and it creates this notched area, and then you can see the actual shoulder pad right here, and as you see his arm swinging, you're going to see how the shoulder pad is not moving along in correlation with his arm. You can see it right there. And as he turns, and then we see the shoulder pad support right there in plain view on the famous frame, right there. And here we go. This is the shoulder pad. This is the arm extension. This is his hand. This is the fake hand. His actual hand is right in here. This is the posterior piece. You can actually see it right here. And this is the, right here on his hip, this is what they always try to say is it's like a herniated disc, for example. It's not. It looks like something in his pocket. You can actually tell that this is dino fabric. It comes across right here. You can actually see it, and if you watch how it reacts exactly how Dynel would react. It looks exactly like fabric, it moves like fabric, it acts like fabric, it looks like fabric, it's the same color as the fabric. Now here at the knee, you can actually see that this is definitely fabric. You can tell how the fabric comes down over the legs. You can see the fake breast prop right here. The fake breasts are right here. You can tell the other arm has the extension too, and you can tell how it's not moving. Here's the arm extension, here's his hand. The fake hand has not moved. The shoulder pad is right here. You can actually see it. And here we go. Here he comes again. Now if you see his arm swinging back again to the front, you can actually, and you watch the shoulder pad area right here, then you'll actually see that the arm is moving different from that. And there he does his turn, and as he does his turn, you see the elbow does not bend. The arm stays the same. The hand is exactly in the same position. The fingers are in the same position. The fake butt piece is right here. You can actually see it. It almost looks like he's wearing boxer shorts or something. It comes down right over here. Here's your little so-called herniated disc area, which is just the fabric, the dino fabric. It probably had something in his pocket. Is most likely what that was. There was something in there that was like causing that to go up, but that is definitely fabric. It looks and acts just like fabric. Here we go again. This is the butt piece, and there we go as he completes his turn. Now, when he comes over here, I'm going to point something else out. When he comes over here by the tree, you still see the fake arm. Doesn't change. Hands never change. Now, if we stop right here, you can actually see where they shaved down the back of the suit. Now, what this looks like is like if you've ever had any of those like old seat covers, like the lambskin type seat covers that people put in their cars, or they used to back in the day, and how the sheepskin would come apart from the fabric, and you could see the fabric underneath there. That's what this is. It's because he had shaved down parts of the Dynel. You can actually see it pretty clearly right here. And it looks exactly like that type of fabric would look if it were shaved out. There's the fake butt piece, there's the shoulder pads. So we have the shoulder pads and the fake butt piece and everything right through the entire film. The entire sequence, it's obvious. Again, there's the shoulder pads, there's the shaved down area. You can see it, you can tell how it's glistening right there. It's exactly the same look as that type of fabric would have, the Dynel. So that is your Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot hoax that everybody has looked at for 60 years and tried to say that it's real and blah blah blah. And all that, you have these so-called experts looking at it, and all these documentaries pulling it up over and over again all the time. And it's fake, okay? It's fake as fake can be. It is 100% fake. It is definitely a suit deployment. You can actually tell right here. You can actually see the the posterior piece right here, you can see how the legs don't even match up with it, and how they go up and jet up underneath there. You can see the shoulder pads right here from the back. I mean, if we can see the shoulder pads from the back and from the front, and they're in multiple sequences throughout, multiple frames throughout the sequence, then it's not an anomaly or like some film artifact or anything like that. For it to be a film artifact, it would have to be only present within like 1 or 2 frames. For it to be present throughout the entire sequence, you're just not gonna have that, and there's no way that it would match up exactly like someone of that period of time using that type of technology, and deploying suits with shoulder pads underneath them, because this is exactly how it looks. I mean, this is precisely how it looks. The footwear, the posterior piece, the shoulder pads from the front and back, everything. And what gets me the most about it, and I think is the absolute funniest thing about the whole thing, is how in the famous frame, in the most famous frame that everybody uses all the time, you can clearly see that it is a shoulder pad, because the shoulder pad support is right there in plain view, and it comes right down over here and right through here. If you just know what to look for, and you're someone who's accustomed to practical makeup effects and actually knows what you're talking about, then you can see it very clearly and you can debunk it right away. When Bill Munns and I were talking about the circumstantial evidence, like the arrest warrant for the camera, how he talked to John Chambers, and how he went to the owner for Shepard's Camera Shop had claimed that he had come in there and brought in a pair of casts that he had made, and they were too narrow, and the Shepard, and he was asking about how they looked. And the owner of the Shepherd's Camera Shop said, well, they look like they're too narrow, like they couldn't withstand the weight of what you described. And he said, well, I can fix that. I'll just make more casts. And then he came in like 3 days later, and he had a new set of casts that were wider and everything. And he asked how those looked. And the owner of Shepherd's Camera Shop told him, well, yeah, that looks better. That looks like something that would work. And there's so many different things with the backstory. And another problem with it is the film stock that they used was a specialty film. It was only available to be developed at 12 different locations in the United States. And the reason for that is because it was a specialty film, and there was certain chemicals that they had to use in the processing technique. And there were only 12 processing labs for Kodak in the entire country that had that. Now, where they said that they sent the film did not process that type of film, and they did not work on weekends. So how they would send a film in at a lab that couldn't process it on a Friday, and then be watching the film at this guy's house on a Sunday, it just makes no sense. None of the storylines match up. None of it works in the backstory. And as we look at the film itself proves that it is a hoax, because film cannot lie. So I don't know how anybody is going to be able to debunk, what I've pointed out, and they can't, which is why no one has tried. And again, I mean, I've been called a lot of funny names by these Bigfoot believers, and it's stirred up quite a controversy. I'm proud of this, because I know what I'm talking about, and I know a lot about it. And it's a significant achievement, because people have looked at this thing for 60 years and tried to debunk it, and they haven't been able to. And I come right in here and I just look right at the film and I'll just break it right down for you and tell you why it's fake, and it's all right here in the film, so you can't really argue it. So that's that, and if you don't like it, then too bad, so sad. All right, take care.